staff wanted to have?
I just really came by to tip over the chair. No, I really came by just to commend you for gathering your strength together. I love what you said about you and I, unity. That's good. I am going to steal that. I'll give you credit then.
That's the thing. Be as in boy.
I have known Pastor Ken Chambers for a very, very long time. In fact, I went to high school with your mother. Oh, yes, I did. Don't ask her stories. But I really, I just thank you. And I appreciate, as a mayor, you make hard decisions every day. And this issue of homelessness is really creating a level of, I just say it, horror and shame in us as human beings. That we see our fellow man in so much need, and that such a wealthy region tolerates people living in these conditions is shameful. But what you do about it is difficult because the problem is complex. And I appreciate that I feel very supported in taking a very compassionate approach in Oakland. It's not the approach every city takes, but I have felt very supported in that approach. We are so blessed to live in such a compassionate community, in such a compassionate area. And so you coming forward and saying, how can we help? How can we partner together? Thank you. Thank you for recognizing government cannot do it alone. We cannot. I'm sure that I have incredible staff, and they do work after they work. I don't even know if they sleep. And so I'm glad that you heard from the experts that are on the ground, that are literally working on this every day, what is happening on a day-to-day basis, and how we are very serious about doing the long-term things to actually end homelessness. But those are going to take a while. And so we have to have what I call the right now plan. And the right now plan has to do with things like mobile showers. That is a beautiful tool. We love that. You're going to see our little Tough Shed shelter popping up, kind of an outdoor navigation center. We're making some very great progress on that. So thank you for being our partners. Thank you for supporting us trying some kind of different and creative things, knowing that they may succeed or they may fail. But I know that doing nothing is the wrong thing.
That's right. Amen.
And then thank you for having patience as we also do what it takes to do the long-term fixes, such as creating new funding sources for permanent, affordable, supportive housing. And thank you for being part of that solution. But boy, hustling up the new money for it, that has been the challenge since the end of redevelopment. So I'm really just here in support of your work. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have, although it's hard for me to imagine that there's a question that you have for me that wasn't better answered by Joe or by Christine. But really, I'm just here to thank you. Thank you for being part of the human family. Thank you for recognizing that government needs your help. You are the faith community. You are the soul of our communities. And I also want to welcome people from outside of Oakland, because this is a regional problem and we need to have a coordinated response. And there has been a great level of coordination and collaboration throughout the county, as well as the three big cities, Oakland, San Francisco, San Jose, have also been having regular meetings to really share. And even the West Coast mayors, believe it or not, the federal government still does useful things. They have supported, they have actually supported some study trips for the professionals from all the West Coast cities to actually do study trips to Portland. We're going to all be in San Diego together at the end of November. And then we're going to be knocking on some Congress doors as a group of formidable West Coast mayors in January. That lobbying trip is actually planned. And so it's not just Oakland. It's not just San Francisco. I'm telling you, Seattle, Portland, San Diego, We even have the Vancouver mayor coming. Even the Honolulu mayor actually comes as part of this coalition. This is a growing problem everywhere, and we need to stand together to solve it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, for being here. It really encourages us. And let's have a few questions for the Mayor. Then this one thing I would like to propose for us to do is come out here today with a working group that's going to take this to the next level. Also, Bruce, with the small tiny houses that we're talking about with a couple of families, that's still on the table with the parking lot. We know that we're trying to work that out. We have one church that has already agreed. We have the portable shower. The mayor mentioned to me, well, can churches use open their bathrooms up? And that's a possibility. Maybe we can. We're also looking at a collaboration of raising funds together, going to foundations. I understand Joe in the back, that's his expertise. And we also have some ways with foundations as well. So, this is a whole big effort here. And if Oakland can lead this charge on how to do something innovative, it would help the region. It would help the region. So I would like to get a couple questions from Mayor. Then I would like for us to go out and have a photo up with the mayor and let us unify this and seal this deal. All right, questions?
Okay. It's more of a statement,
Yes.
too. There's many different on-ramps that you can choose from, and there's a lot of models and templates out there. So don't let the fear of the unknown prohibit you from stepping out in faith to accomplish what God has put upon your heart. I just want to make sure, because again, we are a small church, but yet we end up doing what we are able to do. Because
But would you say the budget that you guys have raised? What's the budget? Just the budget number, please.
the budget now is $1.5 million. But our church was only 40 members when we first started. So,
DJ Denise guy out there, we here. Yes.
Is there like a cheat sheet that shows where the services are for the homeless and what hours they're open and how many services or what services that they have? We started with a small meeting, and we have somebody making that sheet. If it doesn't exist, then, if it does exist, we won't go through the trouble. Then if it doesn't, we will continue making that sheet for everybody, to share with everybody.
Yeah, Human Services does have it's actually a card, because the outreach teams give it out to folks all the time. We can definitely email you that template.
Oh, good.
And I'll actually give you Laura's card. She'll give it right to you. Yeah, It exists.
I have hers.
But look at what we've done and see if it's thorough enough. Maybe other things need to be added. I know a big need now is charging stations. A lot of our unsheltered residents really rely on their cell phones. And that's something that has changed about homelessness. But that's often the lifeline to services and potential employment. So I think to think more about what should be on that, maybe we have the short card and the longer brochure.
A couple more questions. Yes.
Mine's a comment and a request and an idea. I want to thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. You've had a lot of different crises and things going on in our city. And so as a leader in the faith community, we see that and we pray for you and acknowledge that. Second thing is, I think I'm encouraged by, again, the request for the parking lot space. If there's ever things that you and your team is doing, I hope you can bring that to the faith community. Because often we don't know what the best thing is. We're not as organized, or we don't have the bird's eye view that you do. So thank you for that. And the last thing I had is just an idea. There's a new app called Safe Time that's started by a Berkeley resident, Chuck Grant, and it's basically taking the Airbnb model, but opening up homes for people who could potentially be on the verge of homelessness, or they're vetting them from the streets and placing them. And so one idea that he had that when we were talking was, what if each church could commit to having one bedroom in their whole church? In Oakland, I think there's like 400 plus churches. That could potentially be 400 people off the streets, or people who are on the verge not getting into homelessness. And having each faith community get behind that seems kind of feasible. So just throwing that idea out there for all of us is something to look into. Safe Time was something to have. So thank you.
Safe Time.
Safe Time.
Safe Time host.
Safe Time.
Turns out Safe Time is like an ovulation calculator. SafeTimeHost.org. I just Googled it. That's what came up first. I love that, and I was really excited to see that announcement. I don't know if anyone saw last week, I gave my State of the City address, and one of the things I announced, and I was a little disappointed because I felt like some of the media kind of teased me about it. But I highlighted in the State of the City a landlord who decided to not just take the highest paying tenant, but to work with BACS, which is Bay Area Community Services. They are the nonprofit that provides the services at our very successful Henry Robinson Rapid Rehousing Center. And they work with landlords. They bring people that are ready for independent living. So people that have been in Henry Robinson receiving services, addressing whatever barriers and issues that they have, and are ready to actually pay rent. It's got to be low rent. It's got to be rent they can afford. And BACS not only helps place them with a compassionate landlord, but then provides service and support for at least 6 months and often a year to make sure that that pairing is successful, to make sure there's that rent is consistent. We also, I'll give you a sneak preview, we are going to be announcing pretty soon an even bigger campaign. We have a lot of new incentives that we're about to announce that will make it much more attractive for landlords to accept Section 8 public housing vouchers. We have people in Oakland who, they hit the lottery, they got a Section 8 voucher, and they cannot find anyone to take it. And so that is an issue that we're excited to have some good announcements soon. The safe parking, we thought was a great one to put out to the faith communities. Most of you have big parking lots that really only hit capacity one day a week. And so we thought that could be a really great thing to kind of, for you all to kind of own. The idea of also having each congregation have a room, or to challenge each congregation to find a landlord who has a low cost, and these are usually like a back unit. The landlord who I lifted up in my speech actually rents a room in her home because she's developed that relationship and has come to really enjoy the friendship of this former tenant. So that, whether it's a rental or a emergency space, I think that's a great campaign, and to monitor, who's doing it, and to give credit to the faith community as a community for a combined contribution. I would love lifting that up and celebrating what you all can do together.
I just wanted to build on that for a second, which is I also think that one of the things we could do, I'd love to find 400 rooms, is also to be advocates and storytellers for what it means. My family just lost their home in the Santa Rosa fire. My mom's in a wheelchair, has severe dementia, needs 24/7 care. And we had a friend who told a friend who told a friend, and we ended up living in a home for 10 days of a complete stranger. And it was a really interesting experience, and I think we all have faith traditions around welcoming the stranger, supporting those who are most vulnerable amongst us, but practicing it is really hard. And I was just thinking about there may be ways in this, I was thinking of sanctuary parking lot, safe parking lot, that we can actually learn to practice that so it's not so unexpected to open your door. Or to have people be able to meet with other folks who have a space that they're willing to offer in an emergency. So it's just something where I think getting into the practice is really as needed as well as the physical facilities.
We're going to try to wrap up. Let's get back here to the back and have the spoken yet.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for your great support. And, also this crisis in our homeless. I want to ask two questions. What is your involvement right now with the applications for this first round of funding for those applicants who are desiring to build affordable housing in Oakland? And secondly, for those pastors and faith-based leaders that desire to use your parking lot, there is a big importance that we have to remember that your church, according to the zoning and planning department for our city, says that the church has to have the same amount of parking stalls in order to build anything on their parking lot, which means those funds have to come from the church. It cannot come from any government, county, or city. And in our project, we had to put $3.3 million into this application because, yes, the church only uses the parking lot on Sundays, but it would be a poor leader to not make sure your church has parking on Sundays for your parishioners. So I wanted to just share that with the faith-based leaders that desire to do housing. Make sure you have a great appraiser because you're going to need a good appraisal for the land's value.
Then we're going to close up after this.
Yeah, well, I think for the safe parking program, we have the city council last month declared, instituted a shelter state of emergency regarding our shelter crisis. Under state law 8691 or 98, cities can declare a shelter crisis, and that allows us to suspend zoning and building codes, or actually to use our discretion in applying them for the purposes of providing temporary shelter to those who are in need. And so that's not going to help with a housing development and the parking ratios that you're talking about, but it does give us the authority and the discretion to waive certain zoning and building standards to allow for immediate shelter, and that's what we're using to implement our outdoor navigation center, and it certainly would cover any church or synagogue or mosque that we're willing to use their parking lot for our safe parking program. The city administrator has the direct authority to do that, and so that's a 2-year shelter crisis. We made it last 2 years. We don't have to go back to council for a second approval. We anticipate using it because this is a crisis.
And then our staff conducts the competitive process for the housing funds. What I did, my role, is I wrote Measure KK, and I campaigned very hard to get it passed. And that you beautiful people of Oakland, that bond is going to create $100 million for affordable housing just from our community. And then the countywide bond, just for Oakland, the countywide bond is another like $580 million countywide. And all that money gets leveraged because you can finance the rest. A lot of projects are going to go after cap and trade money from the state. There are some new state sources of money. We now have impact fees in Oakland. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle of turning that money into as much housing as we can. So, but I do not, as a politician, interfere in the very professional selection process of which proposals get picked. But what we did is make sure that the pool was big enough that we didn't have to turn so many people away. So we actually are going to be able to say yes this year. This budget has 12 times the money for affordable housing in it than the last budget, just in 1 year.
We're going to have a closing prayer by Malka, and then I'm going to ask us to go out to the Alcor out there and take